Welcome to Worth It or Worthless, a show where every couple weeks we pull a game from my own personal collection of retro games, take off our nostalgia-tinted glasses and decide, is the game good by today's standards and is it worth the price of admission? We talk about what the game does well, what the game doesn't do so well, and the things that are just plain weird. I'm your host Dan, joined as always by my friend Jordan. Jordan, what did we get into today?
Today we played the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game for Nintendo Entertainment System. That's a mouthful. I almost didn't get that all in one breath.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game.
Dude, I don't know. It's got a couple different names. I don't really know what to call it.
Yeah, we played the NES version and we played the arcade version.
Yeah.
In a twist of fate, last weekend, Arcade One Up was like, orders have opened at Walmart for the arcade cabinet. And so 2 days later, I was extremely happy. And then we happened to be recording an episode this week. So we got to finally do this game, which I've wanted to do for a really long time.
Yeah, I mean, you were kind of worried about the whole arcade machine. Like, you were like trying to get one online and they kept being sold out. And then all of a sudden they were there.
You have no idea.
I do have an idea. You were texting me and I was trying to help you. And
yeah, you were like, somebody found one in like Pennsylvania. And I was like, oh. And then it was like somebody found one in Ohio. And somebody found one in like...
They were getting closer to us.
And like, yeah, they were getting closer. So I'm like calling a bunch of local Walmarts and I was like really dying inside.
Yeah,
I'm like,
dude, I know.
Because the pre-orders would sell out in like 20 minutes.
But you have one now. It's set up. It's in your man cave, and it looks awesome.
It is awesome. So we are going to cover both versions of the game on today's show, and it's going to be a good time.
Well, you can't say that now. We're like a minute into it. You can't say it's going to be a good time. What if it ends up being a really bad time?
It's always a good time to have conversations about these games, whether the games are good or not. The conversation's always good.
Oh, that's nice. Well, do you want to jump right in and see what we thought about them?
I was going to say the conversations are always good unless we have a headache from the music of Streets of Rage 3.
There it is.
Check off the Streets of Rage 3 dig. And what do you want to talk about the NES or the arcade version first? You were kind of...
It doesn't matter to me. I can go either way.
All right, you start off with whatever you want to start off with.
Well, let's just start off with the arcade machine, I guess, because I was really excited. I haven't played an arcade machine in a while. I am like kind of obsessed with them though. Like I like have this thing where I keep checking like Facebook Marketplace, and someday I have nowhere to put an arcade machine, but I just want one. And so now I'm really glad that you have one, and it was really fun to play this game. So let's just start there. And for me, just talking about the arcade version, it was just really fun to play.
Yeah, for sure. I don't have a lot of bad things to really say about the arcade version. It was mostly like a positive experience.
Yeah.
And one of the points that I have about the arcade version is it's just an overall great game.
Yeah.
Which isn't really specific, but I had a blast with the arcade version. It's been the last time I played the arcade version, I think was with you at an actual arcade like 3 years ago.
So it's been a while.
Yeah, so I love coming back to this every few years. The only other way that I have to play the arcade version is on the PS2 game that came out. There was a Ninja Turtles game that came out on PS2. And the arcade version is a bonus feature on that game.
See, I always like when they do that, because I remember like playing Donkey Kong 64, and there'd be like you could go in and play original Donkey Kong on like an arcade machine. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I never had Donkey Kong 64.
It's a nice little Easter egg when they throw the old version of these games into the new versions.
Yeah, but a more specific point, though, about the arcade version, other than it's fun and it's good, graphics, animations, I really enjoyed. There's a lot of... This game just is like fluid in a lot of ways. The attack animations, the damage animations, the foot soldiers look good, the turtles look good. Everything looks good in this game.
Yeah, you really liked the Krang animation, like with his little arms like flailing out every time he kicked, and that was nice.
Yeah.
Another thing that I really liked about this game is that it felt like the perfect length of time on the arcade machine.
Yeah, I have that written down as well, that it doesn't overstay its welcome.
No, it was good. Like I didn't feel like it was too long. It maybe could have been a tiny bit longer, but I didn't feel like it was too short either. I felt like it was a good length of time.
Yeah, I feel like it took us about 35 minutes to play through it. And when we got done with it, I was like, yeah, that was quick. But I'm like, I felt really satisfied with the amount of time that we spent with it. A lot of times, because beat 'em ups don't have very deep mechanics, they can
Yeah.
easily get repetitive when they get around, 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, you can only punch and kick and jump so many times.
Yeah.
And those are really your only options in this game. You can punch, you can kick, and you can jump. It's a beat 'em up game, and it's a pretty simple one.
Yeah, so this one, the arcade version, definitely doesn't overstay its welcome. I think it feels the perfect length for a game that does what this game does.
Yeah.
The next point that I have is the music is good in the arcade version.
See, I didn't really even notice the music in the arcade version, but I wasn't really like paying attention to it a ton.
So the NES version is a game that I've enjoyed a lot for a long time. And so one of the things I like about the NES version that we'll get into is the music. So having been a while since I played the arcade version, I was kind of trying to pay attention to the music.
Yeah.
Just to see, if the NES music was really like something from the arcade version. And it is the same music in a lot of the places. And so I was just listening to the music and enjoying it. I think the arcade has some pretty good music to it.
I think if we play it again sometime, I'm going to have to pay more attention to the music because I was also really into it. We can talk about that when we get to the NES version, but I'd be interested to go back and listen to it. I was just like so immersed in like the actual like standing there at an arcade machine in your basement. Like it's such a cool thing to have an arcade machine. And so I just was like, I wasn't really paying attention to the music, and I'm going to have to pay attention to that next time.
Yeah, the arcade machine is a really cool thing. It's a little bit small. It does support 4 players, and it would be very cramped with 4 players. But it makes me so happy.
That's part of the whole thing with it. Like nobody's got room for a whole bunch of full size arcade machines. So the 3/4 size machine, it's like a compromise.
I don't even think it's 3/4 size. I think it's like half size, man.
Yeah, they advertise them as 3/4 size. But for me, it kind of goes along with that. My last thing that I really liked about this game that really stood out is that you can change between the characters.
Yeah.
So when you die, it's like, all right, I died as Donatello. I'm going to reboot back up as Michelangelo or whatever. And it's like, jump back in. I don't think I ever played as Michelangelo, but you know what I mean? It was one of those Renaissance painters.
Yeah, well, it has 4 sticks, and that kind of plays into what I like about this game is it has 4-player co-op. And what you're talking about is you can switch the player that you play as, you have to switch joysticks, like literally, to play as a different player. But it does have 4-player co-op, which I think is a huge, awesome thing, which I was mentioning to you while we were playing. The NES version doesn't have 4-player co-op, and it seems like the NES multi-tap, like, it just missed opportunities.
Yeah, like what games could you even play with that? If you owned an NES multi-tap, like would you ever even have an opportunity to really use it?
I think there were like some sports games, some other not very popular games that used it, but
it's like one of those things that you'd get for Christmas and you'd be really excited about it, and then you'd be like, oh, there's not really any way to use this.
Let's go play some double dribble basketball or whatever.
I think we had double dribble when I was a kid.
Yeah, well, I think you could have used a multi-tap if you would have had one.
Is there anything else that stands out to you that you really liked about the arcade version of this game?
No, not in particular.
All right, well, let's move on to what it doesn't do so well. And I think that one big thing that both versions of this game, but definitely the arcade version of this game, could benefit from is a block button. Just like after having that in Knights of the Round in our last episode, and kind of like realizing like how much that adds to a beat 'em up experience, I kind of was missing it this time around.
That's an interesting point. I never really thought about it. I think I'm so used to this game and the way, sort of the dynamic of attack and then walk away and attack and then walk away.
It's kind of interesting because you move really fast through the air. Like if you're jump kicking or even like flipping through the air, you can move side to side pretty good. When you're on the ground, you are not quick. And so when it comes to boss battles especially, you kind of have to constantly be jumping and like doing aerial attacks and stuff. And it just feels like when you're on the ground, when you're doing like hand-to-hand stuff, you're at a huge disadvantage, and it's easy to kind of get stun locked. And I feel like having a block mechanic would help that a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I don't know if I feel like it needs a block mechanic, and I don't know if that's just because I figured out how to stun lock the bosses with jump kicks.
Yeah,
or
you can tell that you have definitely put a lot of time into this game because you were pretty good and you were able to like stun lock some of the bosses, and I was just sitting there usually dead or dying, and just being very impressed at your level of skill at this game.
I've probably
depressed with my lack of skill.
I've probably played this game dozens of times.
Well, it showed.
One of the things that I have that the arcade version didn't do well was that it's designed to suck money out of you, which could be why there's no block button.
It could be.
You know, when we played Knights of the Round last episode, I never felt like it was like exploitative in the way of you were dying super quickly or you couldn't really like save yourself. Whereas this game, it feels like it's like, who was it? Was it like one of the rock bosses that shot lasers, or was it Bebop in the second level where he would shoot these pulses of like 6 lasers and then it would just hit you 6 times?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you're not going to give me like any invincibility frames. You're just going to completely suck my health because I happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And you're stunning me so I can't move out of it.
And you can't really move up and down very quick.
Yeah.
So you don't really have a chance if you get hit by that.
So, I mean, sure, it's an arcade game and it's kind of designed to suck as much money out of you as possible. But it was kind of like, come on. Be a little bit more lenient with this stuff. Give us a chance to kind of stay alive a little bit longer. I mean, I don't even know how many times we had to continue.
Yeah, that's the nice thing though, with especially with the a console version of the arcade game or the arcade 1-up version of the arcade game is just being able to hit that continue or that credit button and just be able to add some more.
Every time you hit the start button, it adds like 2 lives to your count. And I want to say 20 to 25 lives is what I probably used in this game.
See, when we started this podcast, we used to keep track of how many times we died in games. It quickly got out of hand, and we're like, do we really want to count our 200th death in Battletoads, or is this just going to ruin the whole thing for us? So we don't do that anymore, but we definitely died a lot of times.
Yeah. This game definitely probably made a lot of money. I would be curious if there was some number floating around the internet to see how much money this game actually pulled in, because it's probably... Because you got to remember, like, too, this game came out in 1989, and it was like the perfect storm of when Ninja Turtles was like hitting fever pitch popularity.
You know what's weird is I don't remember that because I would have been 1 year old.
Well, it was not. Do you literally remember it?
I don't.
But the time period.
I also don't remember that time period. I'm sorry. I'm
speaking from a historical perspective, not an experiential one.
I'm just trolling.
Gosh,
you got to expect this from me.
I was kind of hoping that you just let it go for once, but
okay, I'll let it go now.
So anyways, this was the height, this was when the Ninja Turtles was starting to hit fever pitch right before they had their glorious 1990 movie debut.
Yes.
Which still holds up wonderfully to this day.
Yeah. I do remember those from my childhood and renting them often.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anything else that stands out of what this game didn't do so well?
So I have a couple things, but it's more of the critiques of the arcade 1-up cabinet itself rather than the game.
All right.
The mix on the music sounds a little weird. For some reason, like the low end got bumped up and you have these like, there's certain, like when they're singing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle theme song, there's like this slightly out of tune, like lower.
You get the baritone dude coming through more than the high pitched guys. It just seems a little bit off. It's a little bit weird.
It sounds awkward whenever they're doing stuff. You're like, did they add voices to this? Is this the original soundtrack? But then when you like compare the two, because you pulled it up the original on your phone, it was like, I think it's the same. It's just the mix is different for some reason.
It's so weird.
So but the audio is a little off as far as a few places on this one.
Yeah.
Not a deal breaker, just a little bit like, I don't know. I don't remember that from the original. But maybe it was there. And the other thing is just the cabinet is small and cramped. So if 4 people want to play this, you hope it's not like 4 large people, because like it's bad enough. Like, I don't know. It's just a very tiny cabinet.
It is. Yeah.
And I feel like if there were 4 people, it would be hard for the 2 people on the ends to have like a good view of the screen, because they would feel like to get uncramped from each other, you would have to like kind of have a maybe slightly awkward angle to the screen.
Yeah, you could fit 3 adults in there.
Yeah.
And probably 4 kids.
Yeah. But other than that, that's all I really have to say negatively about the arcade version.
All right, well, I think we can move on to the NES version. I think we'll have a little bit more to say there.
Yeah, for sure.
For me, the biggest thing of what the NES version did well was the music. We kind of talked about this already, but like I said, I didn't really notice the music in the arcade version, and it could have just been because everything else was going on. But man, the music in the NES version is so good.
Yeah.
We were transitioning from the first to the second level, and you're like, dude, are you ready? And I was like, what? And then it started, and we just sat there. Like, we didn't even move. We just like listened to like half the song because it's incredible. Like, I don't know if it's because we're music guys or because like I'm into chiptune or what, but it is so good. This is some of the best game music of the like 31 episodes that we've done. I'm really impressed. Impressed.
We always talk about Konami and their music, and this is one of my favorite NES soundtracks. This is probably one of my favorite game soundtracks of all time. It's just so good. It's always something that grabs my attention about this game where I'm just like, the soundtrack, I don't know what it is, but I could just sit there and listen to it, which is rare for a lot of these old games. I never feel like, they really...
The bad thing about it is like, it makes me feel inadequate as a musician. It makes me feel like I never want to like open up my recording software and make something ever again. And so that's the downside to it, but it's so good.
Yeah, but if you were to sit there and you were to like drop it in as like a reference track, how much better could your chiptunes actually become?
I know, right? Like I'm just like listening to it and just thinking of like, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you guys don't know, I did make the our intro and our outro. It's just one song, whatever. But it's like that's like the level. That's like one of like the better things I've ever made. And then you just like, it's nothing. It's dirt in comparison to this. And so like I'm just like feeling so small, but also feeling really inspired by it. And it's just like, it's good.
I love our theme song. And my wife has been like, when I've been showing her like clips and stuff of like, because you did the video intro and stuff, and she was just like watching it, and she's like, your theme song's really catchy.
Yes.
And then I was watching like another video, but it was like quiet, and she was like turning up the volume so she could hear the theme song. So it's pretty good, but like maybe when it comes time to give the podcast a fresh coat of paint, maybe we'll make a new theme song, and then we can just drop in some Ninja Turtles music for you to just elevate.
Yeah.
Maybe, make a remix of the Worth It or Worthless theme song with more ridiculous tapping and awesomeness.
It's so good. It's so good. All right. So the music is great. Another thing that really stood out to me that I kind of loved about this is one of those things that you would often not associate with being a good thing, but I actually loved the product placement in this game. Everywhere you go, like it's not in the arcade version at all, but in the NES version, there's just Pizza Hut logos and signs everywhere, and it's perfect.
It's so good.
There couldn't have been a better product placement combo than Ninja Turtles and Pizza Hut in the early 90s, late 80s, whenever this was. It's so good. It's perfect.
Yeah, I feel like, like I said, Pizza Hut is basically the McDonald's of the pizza industry.
Is that a compliment?
I don't know. But yeah, I told you the manual had a Pizza Hut coupon on the back of it. And I feel like
so perfect.
While Pizza Hut is still the king of sort of pizza chains, I feel like at this time Pizza Hut really had sort of I feel like when you drive around and you see old Pizza Huts that haven't been renovated, they're from like this time period when this game existed.
Yeah, when they built all the huts.
Yeah, like I feel like this is just a beautiful time capsule of 1990.
Yeah, because nowadays your Pizza Huts are all just a hole in the wall in a strip mall, and you don't get the
a lot of them are. Yeah,
even like all the ones by us like have moved out of their hut-shaped buildings and into strip malls, and it's really disappointing to me.
Well, there's still one that's pretty close by.
Yeah, there's one, but like the 5 other ones have all vacated the hut, and it's like, you're not a Pizza Hut anymore. You're just a pizza door.
You're a nice looking building that people might actually want to go in.
Dude, I have a lot of fond memories of the Pizza Hut buffet, the lunch buffet as a kid.
As a kid in the 90s.
Yeah. I missed that. Are you saying I need to take off my nostalgia tinted glasses of pizza places?
No, that's
and decide if they're worth it today?
Definitely no. We can leave those nostalgia glasses on. But yeah, basically in every level, there's like some kind of almost every level has a Pizza Hut, like nice piece of pixel art
Yeah.
poster or something.
And they're different. They didn't just take one and like slap it in there a bunch. There's like different Pizza Hut logos and billboards and signs and like
right. Like
they really went for it.
in the first level, you're walking through, you know, an apartment building on fire, and you have a nice Pizza Hut poster on the wall, and then like 5 feet later, there's like a picture that's similar, but it's mountains. So it's just like
Got some nice art in that building.
yeah.
A few of my favorite things: mountain climbing, Pizza Hut.
And then as you're walking through a snowy New York park, there's just a sign next to some trees and bushes that says Pizza Hut.
Well, you know, just reminding you while you're out in the park, if you get hungry, go grab a slice of New York's finest.
Oh, yeah.
It's good. What else stands out to you of what this game does well?
So I like that it has all 4 turtles. I like that, you know, it's got all 4 playable characters. Granted, you can't switch between them on any given playthrough.
And you can only play as 2 of them at a time.
Yeah, and that's kind of also my point too. Is the co-op in this game is good. So I really like the fact that this game just feels like a perfect kind of co-op experience. There's something about
Perfect?
not perfect as an experience, but the perfect. There's something about Ninja Turtles before you rudely interrupted me just now. That just speaks to, and I don't know why, because the Ninja Turtles tend to be like our more popular episodes, and I don't know if it's because it's such a good canvas to like hang out with your friends, or because, you know, your siblings you could play co-op with, like because there's 4 of them and they're all different colors and they all have different personalities. It just seems like this super interesting franchise that draws people in, and it translated to video games really well. So I don't know. There's just something about this that makes it a great co-op game, in my opinion.
Awesome.
Unlike the first Ninja Turtles game on the NES, which is not very good.
Because it lacks co-op and a whole bunch of other reasons.
No, it has nothing to do with co-op. It's just not a great game.
It's just a bad game.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that stands out to you as what this game does well?
So this might be a good place to transition, but I actually like that this game has extra levels from the arcade game.
This is a good place to pivot because I don't really like that.
Yeah. So I think we both felt that the game started to run a little bit long.
Yeah.
It started to overstay its welcome. Part of that reason was because we had to continue a few times and we had to replay levels. And so that added, you know, probably an extra 25 minutes to our playthrough with it. But you have like I think 2 full extra levels, and then the regular levels are longer than they are in the arcade version. So I feel like this game is at least twice as long as the arcade version, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
easily.
a bit longer. But it's cool that we got an arcade port that had extra stuff. It gave you some kind of incentive. And it would have been cool to see these levels in the arcade version. But at the same time, I like the fact that the game has extra stuff in it.
Yeah, so this is agree to disagree, and we can now pivot to what the game does poorly. Because, yeah, I really didn't like the extra levels. I felt like it made the game feel too long. One of the extra levels was just completely insane. It was, all of a sudden, it was wintertime, and you fight this, like, polar bear wolf-looking guy, and then the Ninja Turtles are walking across a bridge, and all of a sudden the snow melts, and one of the Ninja Turtles says, "It's spring." And you're like, what?
Well,
what even happened?
Well, you had to defeat Polar Bear in a leather jacket, and then you had to...
one of the most timeless and beloved Ninja Turtles bad guys, Polar Bear in leather jacket.
And then you had to jump kick his floating robot ball to melt winter in New York.
Oh, is that what was happening?
I think he had a weather machine. They don't really explain it.
No.
So maybe that is one of the things also that this game doesn't do so well, is the story.
Yeah, no, I have that. That's a whole separate point that I have.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if you were going to bring this up. Yeah, the story on this one's a little weird. It's
almost non-existent.
Yeah, it's save April from her burning building.
Which, you know, that's never the case in a Turtles game, save April.
Yeah, she gets taken by Shredder. Then
What?
You're going through you don't remember Shredder jumping out the window?
No,
in the
that
apartment
was
building?
a fake thing because of course Shredder kidnapped April. That's what always happens. Except for sometimes he kidnaps the Statue of Liberty. Maybe he thought that was April, a statue of her.
Jumps out a window.
Yeah.
Then you're going through the streets of New York.
Yeah.
Shredder is on TV taunting you.
Yes. Somehow.
All right. Get through the streets of New York. Fight Bebop. Go down in the sewers, as you do in every Ninja Turtles game.
Yeah.
Because what would a Turtles game be without the sewers?
Mm-hmm.
Then it's winter.
Yeah, sure. You come out of the sewer and it's
Come out of
wintertime?
the sewer. It's winter.
No explanation.
Save the city from winter.
Yeah, but like why? Why was that in there?
End up walking in a weird alley. Fight Baxter Stockman. Save April.
Yes.
Highway.
Well, no, you forgot that April got kidnapped again after you saved her, right? Was it only one time?
I think you only save her once, and then she drives the turtle van off of a bridge with you in it.
Exactly.
And then Splinter gets taken away.
Maybe she was brainwashed, and that's why she drove the turtle van off of a bridge with you in it.
I don't know. So you got to save Splinter from a guy with a flamethrower, and then you go down to a secret dojo, and then you got to find the Technodrome when you're outside the front of it, because the next year it shows a cutscene of you at the Technodrome, and then it says Scene 7. We got to find the Technodrome.
I'm so glad that you are bringing these things up, because these were really haunting me. These were like things that were making me really like anxious about this game and being like, what's happening? What am I missing? And I'm glad that you and your dozens of playthrough are also perplexed by this game.
I'm not perplexed about a series that started as a spoof of Daredevil.
Yeah.
Where you have anthropomorphic turtles that are named after Renaissance painters.
Yeah.
Have a reincarnated in some mythos version of a ninja master kind of guy.
Giant rat.
Yeah. Hamato Yoshi. Sometimes in the IDW comics, Hamato Yoshi reincarnates as the rat Splinter. But I think in the cartoon, he got covered in the ooze and turned into the last animal that he touched.
Oh, yeah, which makes total sense.
But in the movies, he is Hamato Yoshi's pet rat, and he learned martial arts by watching his master. And then he got covered in ooze.
And got really big.
Which
makes more sense, because that's what it does to the turtles.
So I don't ask a whole lot of questions about why is it winter in New York and springtime.
No, but see, that's lazy. That's giving them a pass.
They're ninja turtles who eat pizza.
That's fine. I can accept that. I can't accept the fact that Shredder has a nearly endless supply of robot warriors.
Yeah, but he's got Krang from Dimension X, who we don't even know. He's some some big wig. We don't, I think, know a whole lot about him. So he's got an army. I mean, he's waging war. He's getting sick of the neutrinos.
The thing is, by everything else we can tell, this is not like some advanced society. It's the late 80s, early 90s. April's carrying around a giant VHS camcorder. Like, nobody has advanced technologies. Shredder has access to...
Dude, it's Dimension X. Do you know anything?
I'm just saying.
The neutrinos have like a flying car.
I don't know anything about this. I'm just saying, if Shredder has access to an endless supply of robot, like humanoid robots with advanced AI technology, and they can like do all this
advanced
stuff. Well, they can walk around.
They can walk and punch.
No robots today in 2019 can walk around and punch like those guys can. They look exactly like human beings. If you had that kind of technology,
I don't know.
Use them, sell them as robot butlers. Sell them as robot security guards. Think about how many rich people would pay to have a bodyguard.
You give all of the villains too much credit in these old games. You're like, why don't they just use their resources for good?
Not for good.
Because they're villains, man.
I'm not saying for good. I'm saying doing what a normal rich person would do. Take advantage of all your stuff, and you're not even... If you're a normal rich person and you have a business, like, and you do something bad, you don't even go to jail. You just get to use your money and get out. It's like I'm saying, like, Shredder is doing the wrong thing, like, by being this bad guy, and he can't. This is the thing that pisses me off the most is he's got all these endless resources, and he keeps getting thwarted by 4 big turtles who are kind of okay at martial arts. Like, what the heck? How is that even possible? He can shoot lightning out of his hands like the Emperor. He can turn into like a bunch of versions of himself like Loki. He's got some sort of ray that turns the turtles into miniature turtles. Like, he's got all this stuff, and somehow he still gets beaten by 4 turtles who know karate? How?
It's the classic hero story, man.
No, it's
the
not.
The villain never wins.
It's like the heroes don't have to do anything. They just stand there while the bad guys fall over themselves.
Yeah, I mean, Bebop and Rocksteady do just kind of fall over themselves.
I just want a good story. Like, it's all there.
Then watch the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. It's a good story.
It is a good story. It is a good story. I'm just wishing that we got some of that in these games.
It has a wonderful ending where Casey Jones crushes Shredder in a garbage truck. In a PG-rated kids movie.
Well, he didn't die.
Kids movie.
He got better.
Well, he had to get better so they could make more movies.
Yeah. With worse animatronics. Anyway, so the story doesn't make sense, and I'm glad that we both agree on this.
I'm not saying that it's something the game didn't do well. I'm just saying it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Oh, man. All right. Well, in the midst of all of that spiel, we had a whole bunch of things that I had written down. So one other thing that really bugs me about this game, and we've kind of already touched on this as well, is that, it's only 2 players, which is kind of a bummer. So I guess we've already talked about that, though. The biggest thing for me that I guess really stands out about this game in comparison, this is now the 3rd Ninja Turtles game that we've played, and I feel like it's just not as good as either of the other 2.
Well, this one came out before those 2. To be fair. Yeah, I would agree. I was actually trying to think about this while we were playing of like, what turtle game do I think is the best one?
I mean, just looking at the 2 we've played on NES, Ninja Turtles 3 is by far better. It's more fun. When we were done with it, we were both really pumped about it. I was like, man, I want to play that some more. It had a ridiculous story, but it had a story, and it was fun, and it wrapped up, and it made sense. And it just seemed like everything about Ninja Turtles 3 was better than Ninja Turtles 2, in my opinion.
Except the music.
Except the music. You're right. But the music wasn't bad.
No.
The music wasn't bad. It just, you can't really beat the music in this game.
I love both of them.
I know you do.
The second one, Ninja Turtles 2, is still a great game in my opinion. I'm not going to say it's better. It's I don't know, man.
I wouldn't call it a great game. I would call it a good game, an okay game.
See, when people talk about like Super Mario Brothers, they don't just like dismiss the first one as a worthless game that's not worth anything anymore because Super Mario 3 and Super Mario World exist. But Super Mario 3 and World are far better games.
I know,
and I feel like it's sort of a similar situation.
It is, but if we're talking about taking off our nostalgic glasses to see if these games are good by today's standard, you kind of have to stack them up and say, like, if you're gonna pick one of these, like, if you play Ninja Turtles 3 and you're like, that was sweet, I kind of want some more of this. Yeah, then go play Ninja Turtles 2. But if you have time to play one of them, you're not picking this one.
See, I don't know if that's always the case, but I don't know if that is nostalgia or not.
And even as far as Ninja Turtles 3 versus Hyperstone Heist, I mean, obviously you're jumping up to a whole nother level, 16-bit platform.
Don't even make me choose.
I'm not going to make you compare those two, but just on the NES, I feel like it's pretty clear cut that 3 is better than 2.
Yeah. I mean, I would say objectively, probably 3 is better than 2, but that doesn't make 2 a bad game or worthless.
No, it's not a bad. You are already starting to plant the seeds of the final thing from the episode. Oh my goodness.
No, I'm just. It just sounds like you're throwing Ninja Turtles 2 in the trash here.
I'm not throwing it in the trash. I'm not. I said I had fun with it. I said it was good. I said lots of nice things about it.
All right. Let's talk about something that the game didn't do well.
I am.
I feel like you're trying to take this off track.
I'm not. Okay, what else do you got? You got more?
So, a couple things.
Okay.
About the mid-game dying. You can't change turtles, and you can't continue in co-op mid-game without stealing a life from the other person.
I feel like that's the biggest downside between the NES and the arcade version is the continue system on the NES is just maddening.
Yeah, it's terrible. I hate it when games do this. And the Ninja Turtles 3 game on NES didn't do this.
Yeah.
They fixed it. I don't know why it wouldn't let the co-op partner continue.
Now,
especially when you have a bumbling second player who just smashes buttons to steal lives, and then all of a sudden I have no lives left and 2 hits, and then I'm dead.
This sounds like a personal experience that you had. This doesn't sound theoretical.
It's almost like it happened
3 times?
several times, and we had to continue, and it's almost like the game got drawn out and was a little too long because we had to replay levels due to somebody just button mashing.
All right, listen.
All willy-nilly.
Listen, guys, this is what's happening. This game has a problem, and Dan is blaming that problem on me, and I'm not gonna get angry at him. It's okay.
Or deny it.
He's deflecting. He's deflecting. He can't take out his anger on an inanimate object, but I'm here to allow him to vent as his friend, and it's okay.
It's just a little frustrating when, so every 200 kills you get an extra life.
Yeah.
And how many of those extra lives did I get to enjoy?
Well, none, because I took them all.
Yeah. And then you took me down to no lives with no health left another 3 times.
Again, this is not
So Jordan
necessarily
used about 3 times, maybe 4 times as many lives as I did in this game.
Well, accumulating about half as many points.
And so Jordan feels like the game was too long, but it was a half an hour longer because he accumulated half as many points and stole all my extra lives.
Listen. All right. This is what we're trying to get at is the game.
Jordan created his own problems with this one.
If you die, if you run out of lives in this game, you have a game over, and you cannot just jump back in. You can't pick a new turtle and continue. You have to sit there until your other co-op partner has lost all their lives. But if you happen to accidentally hit the attack button, you can steal one of their lives and come back in. Now, this is not such a great feature. It's nice, right? It's cool. It's like, oh, quick, hey, man, we're about to beat this boss. Grab one of my lives and come in. That's the idea. Not so great when you are me and you're not very good at this game and you're maybe are doing a little bit of button mashing, and as soon as you die, you don't stop button mashing, and whoopsies, you just stole one of Dan's lives, and that may have happened 3 or 4 times. But that's not necessarily a fault of mine. I feel like that's a fault in the game.
Oh, okay.
Mark that in the column of what this game does poorly.
We can move on, I think.
All right.
I think we've kicked that horse. A couple other problems technically this game has.
Okay.
There's some slowdown in it when it gets a little bit busy, and there's a lot of sprite flicker.
Lots of sprite flicker.
There's some outright parts where half of your turtle is missing or transparent. It's just weird the way I don't really notice it so much, and maybe it's just because I'm used to it, but when I actually stop and try to notice what this game isn't technically doing well, it kind of does run technically pretty poorly.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's definitely one of those things where you kind of just expect it because it's an NES game. But, if a game today was doing that, you'd be like, man, this game is broke.
No, man. Maybe
it's
that's
true.
Well, no, I'm just saying, I'm not going to excuse it because, if in River City Ransom, that game ran really poorly in 2 players. And maybe if they would have done some of the stuff that this game did, technically that game would have ran better in 2 players, but looked like garbage the whole time.
Yeah.
So maybe this game couldn't run the way that it did without being, a technical
failure,
mess,
disappointment.
I mean, it still runs, but yeah, I think that maybe that's the one thing that this game really does poorly is looking at it from a technical perspective.
10 minutes into what this game does poorly, Dan says the one thing this game does poorly is
if you had to pick
flicker.
If you had to pick one thing that this game does poorly,
the continue system.
That's not the friend that you're playing with.
The story. It's too long.
It's not too long.
Endless hordes of bad guys.
If you never have to continue, it's not too long.
Mousers coming out of the wall for 15 minutes while you just sit there and punch them before you can move on.
Well, there could have probably been 2 or 3 less mousers per hole. The last thing that I have this game doesn't do well is in the dojo level. There are these paper tiger enemies that come out of these paintings.
Oh, it's this game's version of motorcycles.
But this game had motorcycles.
It did, but they weren't bad.
So this game checked off all the beat 'em up tropes.
Well, I think this game created all the beat 'em up tropes.
I don't know. We'd have to look into older games. But yeah, you've got skateboarding vehicle level. You've got motorcycle bad guys.
You got like the helicopter bad guys swooping in on you.
But in
you
the
got
dojo,
the water level where you're walking on the water.
No, you're not walking on the water in this one.
That's true.
The arcade version.
The arcade version, you walked on the water. And the NES version had better graphics. You're right. You did walk in the water.
Yeah, the water actually comes up to your knees.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, there's this one part where you got to fight two of these tigers that come out of paintings. And I feel like that was the point in this game where I was like, I think I'm about ready to be over this.
That whole level, and that was an added level. That whole level was unnecessary. It had a lot of bosses that took a lot of hits. It had like these jumping guys that were really obnoxious. It had these scorpion things that you couldn't jump kick without taking damage. It was just a whole bunch of stuff that didn't need to be there.
Yeah, I think that level took us over 10 minutes in and of itself.
Wasn't a good time.
And then you stole one of my lives right at the end of it, so we had to fight the boss a second time.
We had to
play the whole level twice. So that's probably why it felt a little worse too. But yeah, the mechanics on this one, it like wouldn't register right. You would jump kick it, but you would land on the top of its back and it would like do damage to you, which didn't make any sense. And
getting paper cuts, man. You don't want to get paper cuts on your feet, on your turtle feet.
Terrible.
Awful.
Terrible. I mean, overall, the enemy AI behavior in this one isn't too bad, but like,
no, it was really just
that
the
one
ones
was particularly annoying.
And that could have been because that was a thing that they added for this game. It wasn't in the arcade version.
I don't know what it was, but either way, I could have done without that.
Yeah.
But
all right. I think we've said all that we have to say.
Yeah, we have.
Let's move on to our final segment here.
All right. So, if you had unlimited money, and you had amnesia, knew nothing about this game before today, what would you pay for the experience you just had with the NES version?
With the NES version, I started out having a good time, and then as it went on, I was having less of a good time. I really did like the music, and so I feel like I'd spend more on the soundtrack of this game than on the game itself.
That does, yeah.
I feel like I'd be like, oh man, I'd drop like $7 or $8 on that soundtrack. Yeah. But I would be like $2 on the game.
Wow, $2, man?
Yeah, and I feel like I'm being generous there.
Wow. That bad?
It wasn't bad. It was just like not great. Like
just
when we're
left
looking
a bad
at
taste in your
we've
mouth.
played a lot of beat 'em ups. We've played a couple other turtle games that are like way better. Like if I'm not a person who plays a ton of retro games. If I was gonna play a Ninja Turtle game, I'm not picking this one. I'd pick one of the other two that we've played.
Okay.
And it's funny because I own this game. This is the only one of those three that I own. Which is like, man, I got the wrong one.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, okay, I got to take off nostalgia glasses on this one.
Yeah, do it.
I'm still feeling $7 or $8.
Okay, that's reasonable. I thought you were going to say something silly.
I'm feeling like 42 on this.
That is the answer, just not to this question.
Yeah, I feel like 7 or 8 on this one is
that's
just
fine.
Objectively by comparison to the other Ninja Turtle beat 'em up games. This one's probably comes in last.
Wow, that's great. I'm really happy to hear you say that.
But it's still better than a lot of other beat 'em up games.
Yeah, that's fine. You can say that. I'll allow it.
I'd still rather play this than Streets of Rage 3. Unless
I agree.
I turned off the music on Streets of Rage 3.
Yeah.
Then maybe I'd rather play Streets of Rage 3 for half of the game.
See, man, it's amazing.
I'd rather play half of Streets of Rage 3. Because then it would be the same length as this game.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, what would you pay for the arcade version?
See, I liked that. That was fun.
If that was still available on Xbox Live.
On Xbox Live, like on a console version?
Back in the day before it
I
disappeared.
feel like I'm not interested in I wouldn't be really interested in buying like this on a console version. But like if I still have the unlimited money that you gave me.
Yes.
Can I just buy the arcade 1-up cabinet? Because I liked it, man. It was really cool.
Yeah.
They're cool.
All right. Well, what would you pay for the arcade 1-up
I
cabinet?
don't know. Was it like $300 or something?
Nope.
$400?
Yep.
Oh, I got unlimited money. Whatever. I'll spend the $400.
If you can't tell, these games mean a lot to me.
Dude, it's a cool thing to have.
It was a birthday present to myself.
Yeah. That's great.
So that's how I managed to justify it. So all right. So you think the cabinet's worth $400?
Well, I got with the unlimited money. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
like personally, I'm not gonna go drop $400 on this.
no, but do you think that it's outrageous that this is a cabinet that costs $400?
No, it's not outrageous. Like if I had the space and like the disposable income, I would be all over it. Yes,
Yeah.
it's a very cool thing.
Yeah.
If you are a person who is into these old games, you like the idea of having an arcade cabinet, you love this game and Turtles in Time, which is also on the cabinet, and you've got $400, like absolutely, I would say it is a good purchase. Like it's a cool thing. I'm glad that you have it. It makes me happy just to look at it in your basement. So it's
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
I feel good about it. I think 400, and it comes with the riser, which is like $50 individually usually.
Yeah, you need that.
I feel like I wouldn't want to pay more than $400 for this thing.
No.
It's great. It's not perfect, but I feel like if you're kind of on the fence and you have the disposable income to put towards this, I don't think you'll feel bad about picking this one up.
I feel like you feel a lot better than if you spent $1,500 on it, which is what the full size ones go for.
I don't know, man. I still might want the full size one someday. Bucket list. When I start a garage arcade, I still might go after the Ninja Turtles cabinets along with some other ones.
Yeah.
Like Heavy Barrel.
Oh yeah.
So good.
Classic.
Yeah. All right, man. So what do you think that this game's going for on eBay?
See, this is always where I have like the conflict of interest. I hope it's going for a lot because I have it, but I feel like it's probably like $9.
That's not a bad guess. When I looked today, it looked like about $11 or $12 for a copy of this.
Yep.
Price charting said it was trending at $10.
Sounds right.
So yeah, that sounds about right. I think this one has kind of stayed right there, around the $10 to $15 range for a long time. I think it's pretty common. And I think you can't go wrong paying $10 for it.
I mean, I'm not gonna like argue with you because it's $10, but I mean, I wouldn't spend $10 on it.
Now, Jordan, we've had a recurring theme discussing the PAL region.
Yes.
Constantly getting screwed on these retro games.
Yes. Our hearts go out to you, pal. I think of them as my pal now. That's just how I'm envisioning the whole region. Hemisphere even.
All right, so with the trend of PAL games seeming to be double to triple of what they are here in North America, what do you think that the PAL version of this is going for?
I would say $24 to $36 if it's double or triple.
$23 according to price charting.
Hey, there it is.
So they're not getting completely
bad.
Screwed.
No, but you still shouldn't spend $23 on this game.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't know about conversion rates. I think maybe the dollar.
It's strong right now. It is. I heard that on the radio. The dollar is strong right now. It's hurting businesses because the dollar is so strong.
Is that what you heard?
I heard it on the radio. I listen to NPR sometimes. Often, actually.
Oh, man.
It's a preset on my radio.
Yeah.
Number 1.
I feel like, I don't even know. I don't even want to get into conversion rates, but I feel like they're...
It would be more than that for them.
I feel like...
I don't really know. We are not
I feel
international
like it's
economic...
I don't even want to. I don't have time to do this math right now. I was going to just pull up a conversion calculator and be like, how much is $10?
It wouldn't matter though, because we don't know what in relative it would be to them.
Euros.
I know, but like,
remember last episode
But like in Thailand, like 30 baht was $1. But if I told you it was like, oh, it's 400 baht, like that sounds like a lot to us, but it's not to them. So it doesn't really matter. It's still worth $23.
$23 is about 2 hours of minimum wage pay in the U.S.
I wouldn't work 2 hours for this game.
You gotta work at McDonald's for 2 hours to buy a copy of Ninja Turtles.
No, that's not right. You need to work at Pizza Hut for 2.5 hours.
With tips.
Because if you're going to buy this game, you should work at a pizza place.
Oh, man. So, all right. $10. Worth it or worthless?
For me, I'm saying worthless.
You got to be kidding me.
Dan, I said $2 is what I was
$10,
interested in.
Jordan.
That's 5 times what I said I wanted to pay for it.
Yeah, but it's not like you said 20 and it's like 100.
It's okay for me to say worthless and you to say worth it because art is
subjective
wrong. And it's okay to have different opinions.
No, this $10, this is 100% worth it.
In your personal opinion, which you're entitled to, no matter how right or wrong it is.
$10, 100% worth it. No matter what Jordan says, even though he owns it, he's just salty that
I do own
it's not worth more.
Well, maybe. That's a possibility.
All right, my friend. Do you have anything else before we wrap up?
I just got one thing to read to you guys before we wrap up today. Like a few months ago, it was the anniversary of this game, and we shared a video on social media. It was a pasta commercial. It was like Ninja Turtles pasta. And we got this comment on there. And it was from 3GS and more, or maybe 3Gs and more. I don't really know. He says, I remember both eating the canned pasta and also being pissed off that the NES version of Turtles wasn't the arcade version. And then in parentheses he says, delusional kid. So there you go. 3Gs and more, talking about both the NES version and the arcade version and how they weren't quite the same. And I think that is the perfect comment to close on today. So if you guys are listening to the podcast, we would love for you to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And as a brand new thing, this will be our second episode that we will have a video version of. So you can now also follow us on YouTube. Check out the Knights of the Round video. Dan did an awesome job on it. It's really cool. You can see all the different games that we're talking about. And yeah, if you're like, I like listening, but I got some extra time and I'd like to watch, you can now do that.
Yeah, if it's something that, you want to throw on in the background to kind of see some, when we're like in this episode, we're talking about the paper tigers or whatever, you'll see a clip of how cheap they are and how terrible of a time that we had fighting those paper tigers or, whatever other random stuff that we talk about in the show. The video will give you a little more insight into what we're talking about if that's more your bag. Or, you can still just listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
Either way works. Whatever is good for you.
Whatever
is good for us.
Floats your goat.
On that note, I think that's going to wrap things up.
I think so too. We'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys. If you have any questions or feedback, feel free to email us at worthitorworthlesspodcast@gmail.com. And if you're interested in staying up to date with the show, follow us at WIOW Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review and subscribe if you want to hear more. Thanks for taking the time to listen to the show. We sincerely appreciate it. Talk to you next time.